Today we're going to talk about something huge, something a lot of people are feeling, the American middle class. It seems to be vanishing, right? Well, we're going to dive into a really powerful framework from MIT economist Peter Temin. He doesn't just ask where it went, he explains what actually replaced it.
So, yeah, what did happen to the American middle class? I mean, for generations, it was supposed to be the bedrock of the American dream. But now, it feels like it's just slipping away. The big question is, where did it go? And according to the author we're looking at, it didn't just disappear. Nope, it was replaced by something else entirely.
And that something else has a name, the dual economy. So what is it? The theory is pretty straightforward but really powerful. It suggests that our society has basically split right down the middle into two completely separate economic worlds. You've got one prosperous, well-educated sector doing great, and then you have this other, much larger, low-wage sector that's just being left behind.
All right, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll get into what these two economies actually are. Then, we'll look at the walls that keep them separate. After that, we'll touch on the very real human cost to this division. And finally, we'll look at a 5-point plan for how to maybe fix it. Let's get into it.
Okay, first up, America's two economies. Let's really dig into the two sides of this divide. Who are we talking about here and what makes them so different? So on one side, you've got what the author calls the FTE sector. That's FTE for finance, technology, and electronics. Think of this as the prosperous group, the ones who kind of make the political choices that benefit them, like keeping taxes low. And then you have the other side, the low-wage sector. Their main role in this whole system, to provide a big pool of cheap labor for those FTE businesses. But their own needs, things like decent healthcare and good schools, they often get pushed to the side, completely neglected.
Now, get ready for this, because this part is truly staggering. You might be thinking, okay, the low-wage sector, that's maybe a small part of the population, right? Wrong. The research we're looking at estimates it's, wait for it, 80%. 80% of all Americans. So we're not talking about some fringe issue here. This is the reality for the vast majority of the country.
Okay, so if the divide is that huge, you have to ask, how does it stay that way? What's keeping these two worlds from mixing? What are the walls that maintain this separation?
Well, according to the author, this isn't random. It's a system, and it's enforced by some really powerful interlocking policies. We're talking about things like underfunded public schools, mass incarceration, housing segregation, even voter disenfranchisement. The argument here is that these aren't just unfortunate accidents. They function as tools that effectively keep the low-wage sector right where it is. Now, to make policies like that stick, you need a justification, right? And this is where the author introduces a really critical concept called racecraft. So what is that? It's this idea, this belief that distinct human races exist, and that belief is then used as a political tool. It's used to justify discrimination against the whole low-wage sector by basically painting a picture that it's made up mostly of people of color.
But, and this is a huge but, here's where things get really interesting. That whole justification, it just doesn't match the reality of who is actually in the low-wage sector.
And this is maybe the most critical insight of the whole thing. Take a look at the numbers. While racecraft is used as the political story, the low-wage sector is actually a slim majority white. Now, of course, it also includes massive numbers of African Americans and Latino immigrants. So the real takeaway here is that race is being used as a tool to divide people, but the economic struggle itself, that's hitting people from every single background.
So if you're one of the 80%, how do you get out? How do you move up into that other sector? Well, there's really one main path, right? Education. But here's the kicker. The author argues that this path, the main escape route, has been made incredibly difficult on purpose. A crippled public education system has basically become the #1 barrier stopping people from moving up.
And we have to be clear. This isn't just some abstract economic theory on a chalkboard. This division has real, tangible, and honestly, tragic consequences for millions of people. Maybe one of the most shocking results of all this is the rise of what researchers call deaths of despair. So back in the early 2000s, a strange trend started. The death rates for middle-aged, less educated white Americans started to go up from things like drugs, alcohol, and suicide. This was wild because for every other group, death rates were going down. Then the 2008 financial crisis hit and the trend just accelerated. By 2016, you could feel that frustration, that despair, boiling over and becoming this huge force in American politics. And the fallout from this division is just
everywhere you look. That political anger in 2016, that's just one symptom. You also see it in the slow decay of public services and infrastructure, the stuff we all need. Social mobility pretty much grinds to a halt as inequality gets wider and wider. And that supposed escape route, education, for so many it's become a trap, just crushing people with unbelievable amounts of student debt.
Okay, so after painting a pretty grim picture, I know, the author doesn't just leave us hanging. The final part of this analysis actually offers a prescription, a possible path forward to start healing this divide and reunifying the economy.
It's a pretty comprehensive 5-point plan. Step 1. Education. We're talking about restoring and expanding public education for everyone, starting from preschool. Step 2. A huge shift in how we invest our money, moving it away from things like mass incarceration and putting it into people. Steps 3 and 4 are all about rebuilding society, fixing our infrastructure, forgiving crushing debt, and making sure our government works for everyone, not just private interests. And finally, step 5, consciously rejecting the politics of division and embracing what makes the country diverse.
And a really key point the author makes is that you can't just do one of these things. They're all deeply connected. I mean, think about it. How can you really fix public education if you don't also address mass incarceration, which is pulling families and communities apart? They're basically two sides of the same coin.
Look, this is obviously a massive project. The author says it took us over 40 years to get into this hole, so it's not going to be a quick fix to get out, which raises the big question. Where do you even start?
And the answer we're left with is this really powerful but very simple metaphor. You know the old saying, the first step when you find yourself in a hole is to stop digging. Before we can build anything new, we have to stop doing the things that created this mess in the first place. The first and most important step is to just stop digging.